I'm Justin Snyder.
And I'm Stephanie Greenwood Snyder.
We're just an average, everyday couple.
But over the years, we've seen the incredible importance of building community together.
We'll be talking with friends and experts about their stories and experiences to help us learn and grow.
We don't want to just survive through life.
We want to intentionally thrive.
This is The Intentional Thriver. Welcome back to The Intentional Thriver. This is a very special episode because
it is indeed.
I have my very dear friend, Paul Jutras, on. Hi. Welcome, Paul. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Hope you are as well.
Yes. I'm so excited to hang out with you. Paul and I go way back to...
Way back.
10, 11-year-olds.
Wee babes.
Wee babes in arms and friends and all through life, which is just so special. But it's been a minute, right? We haven't seen each other. We hung out a couple of weeks ago virtually, and that was so special. And now we get to ask you cool questions, and we're so excited about that.
And you just finished up run of Shrek the Musical, right?
Shrek the Musical, which was exciting and fun. It was fun being back in theater after, 7 to 8 years. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And I love that you said that you were booked for this like 2 years ago because they're like, we need prosthetics and we
need the Paul Jutras.
Yeah.
Get that man.
Or am I the only one in Greenville that knows how to do special effects?
Semantics, Paul.
Amazing.
I'll take the compliment though.
It's so true. Oh my word. It's just wild to me, the ride you've been on. You know, when we were younger, I don't think in a million years you would have said, I am going to have a career in makeup and prosthetics and kill it.
You might have, Paul.
Maybe.
I don't think anyone would have guessed that this was going to be my life. So no.
Oh man.
Well, speaking of which, can you share a little bit about your background?
First, I have to say.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm jumping the gun. Yeah. I'm so excited to talk about this.
I know. So first, I just want to say how thankful I am for you to be on this. And Paul, while I was thinking about things to say of how much I appreciate and love you, I was thinking about just your genuine joy that you have and your spirit, and you just radiate joy. And I know you've been through hard times, and I've experienced some of them alongside you when we were little, but you always have such a positive outlook on things, and
it's
you always come alongside people and just make us smile. One of my favorite pictures from our wedding is Justin has you over his shoulder and he's like carrying you out of the ceremony.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
And just that's you. You bring so much joy and laughter in a great way. You can make fun of yourself in a way no one else can. And I love you so much, and I'm so proud of you and everything you've accomplished. Now, you may ask.
Now, Paul, tell us about yourself. No, all of those things.
I mean, just a little bit of my background. Like Stephanie mentioned, I was born in Massachusetts, grew up in Connecticut. Met Stephanie at 10 years old. And we actually got into theater together because I was heavily involved in theater.
That's right.
From about, 14 years old. I think I started theater. And you played my daughter in King Lear. And,
because you're such an old-looking man.
That out. Wow.
Right?
Yes.
Started theater and then went to theater school, got a bachelor's degree, and there... While I was in theater school, I got a job as a makeup artist and started doing special effects sort of makeup for shows at the college, and then went on to starting a social media career. So that's sort of the background of where, I got started from that.
Yeah.
So.
But you're doing it, which is amazing. And it's not a little thing. You have to be so consistent in it, and you have to work on your refining your trade and making it the best you can.
I think that's probably a big misconception. We can probably talk about this a little bit later, but how, some people probably look at I can make money on social media. That's easy money. That's easy bank. I just got to upload a few videos and boop, I'm viral. And it's there is so much blood, sweat, and tears that goes into that.
Right.
It's
There's
not
so
just
much. Although I do realize that I think my job as a social media creator is maybe a little bit different in the sense of there's some creators that can spend, 12 seconds dancing to a video, and that video can go viral, right?
Right.
And there's no shade to anyone that
No.
does
Sure.
dance
No,
videos.
of course not.
Keep it
None.
up. Mhm.
But for something like me, like I have to not only spend, sometimes my makeup looks take 5 to 8 hours to do, and that's not even
The conception and
and that's not even like the time before that
Mhm.
I'm taking to like look for props and do, all these other things. So,
Mhm.
in all, it can take hours and hours and hours just to film, a 30-second TikTok. So,
Wow.
uh, so yeah, but I feel like I should talk about, what I do on social media
Yes,
Do it.
with,
please. Yes,
so I do
please.
special effects makeup. I run an account called Polly SFX. It's a name that I kind of created. So it has my name, Polly, which my grandmother used to call me Polly growing up. It was
Right.
just like, a form of endearment.
Mhm.
And so I wanted that. And then SFX is short for special effects in the showbiz world.
Mm.
And so I combined both of those. And so yeah, I started just posting special effects makeup that I would do in my bedroom. And here we are 8 years later,
Fast forward.
it's,
So
yeah,
So I know you were saying that
It's amazing.
like when you first started doing or focusing more in on makeup was in college and theater, but I mean you had experience doing multiple components of theater. It wasn't just makeup. You had
Mhm.
done acting, I think some costumes, some set design, like a lot of components to it. What was it really that stood out to you about makeup artistry and special effects makeup and prosthetics and things like that that really like that you became interested in that really got you excited about that specific component?
yeah. Well, I always say I think life is kind of funny sometimes because it kind of throws you the curveballs
Mhm.
because, like we were talking about earlier, if you had told me 10, 15 years ago I was going to be a makeup artist, I would have laughed. Like
Right.
that's not something that was even in my brain. So I think when I was like 12 years old, I'd, had this dream of I want to be an actor, I want to do this,
Mhm.
whatever. But I think looking back, I really just wanted a story tell. Like I wanted to
Mm,
tell stories
Yeah.
and I wanted to do in any way, shape, or form. I've always been artistic. So I've always,
Mhm.
was drawing, coloring,
Yeah.
doing chalk art, whatever, and so my dream of acting or whatever was in high school, but I credit theater with getting me into makeup because if it
Mhm.
wasn't for theater, I wouldn't have known anything about special effects
Mm.
makeup.
mm.
So I think, yeah, in theater, I started dabbling with putting bruises on my face for a show or doing old age makeup or whatnot.
Mhm.
And then it's that kind of just led to me being like, oh, it's so cool what you can do to transform your face. And
Mhm.
then I just became known as like the makeup guy because everyone was asking me to do all their shows for
Mhm.
makeup.
Sure.
So I was designing shows and whatnot. But
Wow.
I think for me, it's crazy because I love all elements of design. Like I love costume design, I love set design. Like I
Mhm.
always loved that kind of stuff. But makeup just stuck, and I
Mm,
think that I don't know for some reason, I realized that I just happen to have a gift in
Mhm.
transforming face. You
Yeah.
know, it's interesting because I'm not good at like painting on canvas,
Hmm.
and a lot of people are really curious about that. Like,
hmm.
why can't you do that? Like, why can you paint, a Bob Ross painting on your body, but like
Seriously.
painting a Bob Ross painting on a canvas is so I don't know. For some reason, I think
Wow.
my brain needs a 3D element.
Mm.
Interesting.
So that's interesting.
Mhm.
But yeah, and then I think when I moved to Boston after school,
Right.
and I didn't have anything to do creatively. And so that was when I started just, hey, I have a makeup kit. I have my bedroom. I'm just going to start painting, on my face just to, practice and whatnot. And and then that sort of led me to realizing, oh, because I think the makeup that I was doing in theater, it wasn't the makeup that I produced on social media right
Sure.
now.
Mhm.
So that was where I learned, oh, I can do like really cool stuff
Mhm.
on my face,
Mm,
Yeah.
and what better canvas to have than something that you have all the time?
Exactly. And that phase, I mean,
that's the moneymaker right there.
Right. I don't need to hire a model. I don't need anything. I can just
True.
do it from the comfort of my room,
It's amazing.
essentially.
What was the design that you did that kind of took off that you were like, oh my word, this is something I can really do? Like, when did you quit your job, your day job,
Right.
and start working all the time? I love when people say like your passion isn't, not working 9 to 5. Your passion means you're working 24/7.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. No, exactly. So I moved from Boston. I moved to Greenville, and that was the part of the reason was Boston was just too expensive for me wanting to pursue this dream of mine, I guess. And so I'm trying to think of the first makeup look that kind of took off was I did an optical illusion probably months into my social media journey. But I stood like this and I looked like my mouth was like really wide and there's teeth coming out of it.
Yeah.
And I remember that was the first Instagram post that got 1,000 likes. And I remember being like, I made it. No one talked to me.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
But that was such a big deal for me at that time. Was like, that was, kind of, I don't know, it got me on the explore page at the time and whatnot.
That's amazing.
But
I remember that one.
Circling back to when I first started on like my social media journey, I looking back, I was kind of smart about it because I didn't just post out of nowhere. For 6 to 7 months while I was in Boston, I was studying what other creators were doing. So I was looking at, what they were doing hashtag wise. What were they, how are they getting, tons and tons of followers or views or whatnot? Like, what were they doing to, get a larger audience? So for I think it was honestly 6 to 8 months, I didn't even post anything.
Wow.
I was just kind of, snooping and seeing what the competition was out there within, special effects makeup artists, other makeup artists, YouTubers, whatnot. And I don't know, there's, obviously there's a couple things that I feel like all the people have. You have to get someone's attention in 3 seconds. That's just like really, really, I don't know. It's just how you have to do it because you want to keep people's attention and that gets you the views. You kind of have to, I always say you kind of have to have that customer service voice, everyone has it when they do, things in front of a camera, but you kind of have to, be a little bit different. I know like my family, they are always like, Paul, you act so different on, your social media. Like that's not how you act, but it really is. You have to kind of create some sort of character and kind of stick to it. But I think early on, I think that's what helped my page. And then I think within the first year of having Poly SFX, I think I had 15,000 followers.
Nice.
So I don't know. I think it worked. Looking back, I think that it was, I don't know, a smart way to kind of go about it. Because I think a lot of times people go into social media with just like, oh, I'm just going to do this. And I'm just going to, without doing the homework first.
Yeah.
That's really good.
No, you were very strategic. You were intentional about being strategic. I'll work that in there. Speaking of social media and like, man, it's crazy how much content is out there. Number one. But with that, with all the noise, for lack of a better term, of all the different voices speaking, and again, I'm sure early on as you're looking at these other artists and things like that, and you're doing this research, was there ever a point where it was almost, I don't know, discouraging or scary to see like, oh man, these people are like really good. I mean, like, yeah, I believe in myself. But like, man, I feel like this aspect of the market is already being tapped into or utilized, or you know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So I question myself all the time of just like, why are people following me? There are so many makeup artists out there that are 1,000 times better than me, like 1,000 times better than me, and they have like very few followers, and it blows my mind. But I did see that with TikTok. So so I started on TikTok before anyone knew what TikTok was.
Yeah.
So me and one of my like social media friends, she had messaged me and was like, "Hey, you should get on TikTok." And I was like, "All right, let's." I don't know what this is, but let's do it. And so I posted my videos on that I had on Instagram, and I posted them on TikTok, and they all went viral, like crazy viral. And so that was where I started that journey. And so I at one point I was like the only special effects makeup artist on TikTok, and I kind of had that crown, so to speak, which was nice. And then once word got out, and then 2020 came, and everyone was on TikTok. Everyone downloaded TikTok during 2020. I saw that increase of tons of makeup artists going on the platform, and it's just I wouldn't say it's discouraging. It's it's one of those things where you're like, I liked it better when it wasn't so saturated. It was a little bit more fun, and you can do a little bit more stuff. Because when the market keeps getting bigger, your views get less. That's just how it works.
Right. Supply and demand.
Yes, which for me, in a business sense, it's more of a hurt than it is anything. Because you have, whereas in 2019 I was getting all the sponsorships and the deals.
Nice.
Whereas now there's more people, so they're going to go to a lot more people.
So we talked about the comparison aspect. What are other dangers that you've experienced on social media, both as a consumer and as a influencer?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's always the bullying aspect, the hate, and I think a lot of people don't. I don't really talk about the hate that I get occasionally, and it's not a lot, but it can definitely mess with your mental health, especially if you're having a bad day.
Sure.
I always say I get the most hate on Facebook, which is crazy. Facebook is one of those things that I think it's just there's so many people on it, and people don't have a lot to do. I don't think on Facebook. But I say I get the most hate on Facebook, and I think the less hate on Instagram, I would say. But I mean, just that aspect of it, I think is dangerous. And I don't know, I feel like after doing social media and being, because it is my job, I'm constantly on there. I don't know, I worry just about like what the future, and like what social media is going to kind of become. I think I worry about young kids being on social media after especially with me, like being on it so much. There's so much just junk on social media. So I mean, as parents for yourself, I mean, I would love to know like what you're
great question. Well, we worked on we shot a documentary about mental health. Hopefully it's going to come out in the next year, couple of years, something like that. But yeah, one component of that documentary talked about social media, what was involved, and we had talked to certain experts and even some of the stories, especially like social media now paired with technology like smartphones and things like that, where you can just immediately access it at any point in time, and access to just millions of images, some of which are very damaging stimulation wise, are more than someone at that age should be exposed to. And so, like one of the big takeaways that a lot of experts have said are a couple things. One is like social media fasts are a really good thing. And just like designating, and again, it's different for every person, but like a general rule of thumb is maybe like 1 day a week or half a day or something like that. Yeah, for those of us who it's not our job.
Yeah.
Um,
And then for our kids,
Yeah.
I think it's just really important to identify their personalities, right? So I think
Yeah.
there should be some consistency of when they get phones or when they get access to certain platforms or things like that. But I mean, I know from my experience, I was much more socially influenced than maybe some other siblings of mine. And so I think that if I had some more boundaries or understood, like, you know, like we even teach our 3-year-old, hey, that's just in the TV. That's not real life. That's not, they're not going to come get you. And she'll even say like, oh, mommy, that's just in the TV. And like really trying to separate, which is harder on social, right? Than a movie or something like that, because it is so personal and it does feel like it's coming right at you. So I think there's an element of personality. I think there's an element of, you know, the addiction element of
that's a big one.
what that child is leaning towards, or, you know, us and what we're modeling.
Well,
and then
chemically you get a hit of dopamine, like when you go on to social media and there's a comment or things like that. I think you said the word, I think boundaries is such a good word for it, because one of the experts in the documentary had a really good statement. He's like, you know, if you don't draw boundaries with social media, it will never draw boundaries with you. It will take every inch of space in your head that you give it. And so it's not a like, oh, social media, if I treat you well, you'll treat me well. It's like, no, it is something that you have to like be very honest with yourself and have like accountability. And I think, again, that's another huge benefit of community and friends, to be able to speak into your life and again, I think have like good coping and good outlets. And I guess so, like for you, Paul, like when you do get like you're saying, when you do get negative comments or you are like hit with that, what's kind of your process of working through that? You know, it's like, even if it's like 1,000 great comments and it's 10 negative comments, it's like, oh, well, yeah, just 1,000 comments. But like those 10 still have an impact, you know? It's not like just like, oh, whatever, you know?
It's so crazy. I mean, I feel like again, you can get so many amazing comments, right? But it's that one. And I feel like a lot of the times people, they know how to get you. They know how to get underneath your skin too.
Reaction.
But like I said, I mean, I feel like for me, yes, taking social media breaks has been very nice. I think there was a while, I think did not take a social media break for 6 years.
Wow.
And it's because it's that feeling of, if I take a break, I'm going to lose what I have. And that was because that was where my mental health was like skyrocketed, because I was so, you know, just consumed by everything. And so again, I think that when I took a break and I just started doing a lot of reposting, which was good for me, but I think for my channel, it kind of, you know, people were like, we want new content. We, you know, why are you only reposting, you know?
Yeah.
But I think for the majority of people, you know, they understood. But I think taking breaks and having a good support system around you is also really, really nice. I have an amazing family. They're all very supportive. I have a, you know, great group of friends. And, you know, my roommates at the time were amazing helps with that as well. So yeah, I think you just have to, you know, I don't know, just, there's a part of me that kind of just, you know, grin and bear it, you know, kind of a thing. But there's times where it really does get to me. And it's crazy because at first, when I first started, you know, Polyus Effects, and I would get like 1 or 2 hate comments, whatever, it was funny. Like it was actually kind of funny, you know? And I remember like taking screenshots of them and like sending to my friends, like, look at what this person wrote. Like, it's so crazy and bizarre. But I think the more you get them, I think the more you maybe like psychologically believe them.
Mhm.
And I always say people, they'll look at like my comments like, oh, it looks like all positive comments. People don't realize that a lot of people just go right to the DM because they know that they're not
Mm.
going to they're not going to get the flack of like, my followers,
Wow, yeah.
looking them up or whatever. So I'm the only one that sees my DMs.
Right.
So
Wow.
a lot of people don't realize that it's the DMs
No.
that are
Huh.
coming in that are the worst. So for me, I just don't look at DMs. And I know that it's bad in some ways because sometimes I'm like, oh, somebody's like, I messaged you like a long time ago. I'm like, I'm sorry, I just didn't, I didn't see it. I don't look at my
Yeah.
DMs. And then I'm quick. Since I'm always on my social media, especially when I first post, I'll delete a lot of comments that come in. So a lot of people don't see, the things that I see, but that just helps me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not looking at it and deleting it right away without even reading it. Like if I
Oh, wow.
look at something and
Mm.
it looks like it's negative, I just completely I'll
That's
delete it.
good.
Good for
So
you.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
I feel like there's a new kind of strategy out there that actually is trying to get hate because
Right.
it doesn't
Right.
the algorithm like rank you differently if you get like more hate, I've read.
Well, because you
And
get more like interaction and people
yeah,
comment back and forth and it becomes very divisive and
yeah, and
yeah,
they
yeah,
love
no,
that.
So
divisiveness definitely
But I
is
love
a strategy to drive
yes.
more things. And
oh.
it's just
So
like, that's not a game we're going to play.
Right. A year ago, I work with Disney for the entire year, which is bizarre. Like that,
I've heard of
blew
them.
my mind. But
Very cool.
I did videos for them to promote for, I don't know, like a movie or TV show or whatever.
Wow.
And I got those videos got so much hate. Like it was comical in the sense of like, you know, they were, this makeup artist is horrible, and all these hate whatever. But in the end, it helped my video.
Mm.
So I mean, I had a call with um, the people at Disney, and we discussed everything afterwards. And they're like, yeah, I mean, I think the video on Facebook had like 17 million views or something crazy.
Wow.
And it's because there was 20,000 hate comments in the video, and it just skyrocketed the video, which in turn, because at the time Disney was getting flack for who knows what reason. They were in the media for
It's always
something.
something new.
And so everyone was just going at Disney, and then me working with Disney upset them apparently. And so we're all bad guys. And so, but at the
Obviously.
end of the day, it promoted the show, it promoted Disney. And so they don't care. They don't care about that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
So bring on the hate. It helps me out.
Right.
Nice.
And Disney didn't come at you and say like, how dare you get hate? They're like, thank you.
So
Like,
if you're watching this, please put a hateful comment below.
Only hate comments in the
So we
in
can
the
quickly
comments.
delete it without reading it. Thank you.
Exactly.
No.
What have been some of your favorite? I mean, working with Disney, that's awesome. Congratulations. It's amazing. Well deserved. What are some of like the other opportunities and projects that you've really enjoyed the most that have like excited you and like given you fulfillment as an artist as well? Because at the end of the day, that's like, yes, you're a businessman, you're an entrepreneur, all these things, but you're an artist too at
Yeah.
the same time. Like what projects have kind of given you that fulfillment and that enjoyment? And what kind of projects are you like wanting to do more of too?
Yeah.
I guess two-parter
Well,
there.
Yeah. Stephanie might remember this. It was 2018, and I was in a nationwide competition called Nick's Face Awards.
That's right.
Where I was chosen. I was the top 30 out of. I heard there was a number like 12,000 entries to this competition.
Amazing.
So it was an honor in of itself.
Yep.
But it was one of those competitions that it's like a voting system where you get people to vote you through to the next kind of thing. You make these very elaborate videos, and that was where I think that was the time where it kind of jump started my career in the professional sense of other makeup artists being like, oh, he's someone to look out for. And I remember after that competition seeing a huge rise in, views, following, and it also stretched my mind creatively because they would give you like a very obscure description of what to do with makeup, and then you kind of have to like come up with, something.
Cool.
And so that kind of got my brain to kind of spin, and that was when I started to, I don't know, be a little bit more intricate with my makeup looks. Um, so I work with TikTok in 2019, which was amazing, and I think it's because so I was, like I said earlier, one of the first creators on the app, and I was one of the fastest growing creators on the app at the time.
Wow.
So TikTok headquarters actually called me. And I remember getting like, them setting up a phone call with me and just being like, hey, like, because I gained almost 200,000 followers in 2 days.
What?
Oh my
So, yeah.
God.
Well,
That's
it was
crazy.
insane. And so TikTok was like, hey, we want to work with you to like, build TikTok and whatnot. And so I don't know, we worked together with just, them giving me like ideas of videos and whatnot. So that was cool. My biggest brand deal was with TikTok in I think it was fall of 2020.
Nice.
And they gave me a really nice brand deal to work with them, and I'm hoping it was kind of a way for them to kind of thank me for, what I did for them. But that was another like pinch me moment. I was featured in Elle magazine, which was crazy.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
featured in Elle magazine as like one of the top 20 creators on TikTok to follow or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was like another pinch me moment.
Yeah.
But I think, like going off of something in the future, I always, I've gone through the social media journey realizing that like social media is not going to be like I'm not going to do it forever. And I think a lot of people think like, oh, once I get, all the followers, it's going to last forever. And that's just not the mentality I think people need to have. In anything, a TV show, whatever, you get a good 5 to 6 years. That's like the sweet spot of, and having somebody's complete focus on you. And so for me, throughout this journey, I've been constantly looking at what am I taking from these sponsorships and putting it to, something else. So I've constantly been, focusing on that too, because I'm like, I don't know if I can do 7 to 8 hours, every 2 days of makeup looks, for the rest of my life. Just
Yeah.
So currently I'm, in the process of, creating a makeup company where I do weddings and I would love to have like a team working with me. Kind of am in that journey right now with one of my best friends. And so we're currently traveling, nationwide and around the world doing wedding makeup for brides.
And they usually want that like with a horror vibe, right? Like with the extra teeth and the okay,
right.
got it. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So to clarify, I don't just do special effects makeup. And that has been also like when I first started, I only did special effects makeup. I was very, but I found a love of all aspects of makeup. I think it's just so cool to, see a bride see herself on her wedding day for the first time. I just think it's just so awesome. And I love that all elements of that, I think just doing special effects makeup kind of limits you. And so as an artist, I love to be well-rounded with everything. So I wanted to learn everything, but it took me I didn't just start doing weddings. Like I took years to practice and learn before I touched my first bride, because I was like, I don't want to,
Yeah, mess this
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
right? Like I don't want to like just go and just I can do your makeup. So
Right.
so
Good for
yeah.
you.
I don't know.
Amazing.
So those and then do other fun things. Like I just did Shrek for
Right.
an entire month,
Phew.
and and then I'll be doing a couple of fun projects in the future, and things are lining up. So I'm constantly going to be busy with things outside of social media,
Sure.
and then social media is one of those things right now where if I feel inspired or if I feel like a look is fun, like I just did like a Barbie look. I felt like I was just doing makeup looks because I had to.
Mm,
And
Mm.
creatively, my juices were just non-existent. Like I
yeah.
was like, I
Sure.
just, so I never want to be that influencer content creator that is just dishing out looks just because I have to. So uh only when I'm feeling inspired, only when I have the brand deals or whatever is
Mhm.
when I'm gonna, do makeup looks for social media. And then I've been posting a little bit more of my, my trips and
Yeah.
whatnot on social media these days too. Again, I feel like prior to that, I was strictly just my makeup looks on social media. I wasn't really posting like my personal life and whatnot, but now I'm kind of, getting more into that
Mhm.
and just, seeing people, seeing what happens with, that journey too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm keeping my eye out as we're doing different movies. I'm keeping my eye out for a project that has a lot of prosthetics in it, and then as soon as
Well,
that comes
movies are
across
hard.
the
Yeah.
desk,
That's
Yeah.
Paul,
Justin,
you're gonna be
you
my
have to
first
book me
call.
2 years in advance though.
yeah, it's right. Like
That's true.
Shrek.
So
Hey,
Yeah,
it
probably
takes
more at this point.
at least 2 years to get
He's
your
doing weddings. I mean,
pre-production and your
right.
financing and
yeah. Yeah.
all the things.
Oh, it's a
It's a
lot.
crazy business.
Yeah.
It's
It
a
is a
crazy
So
crazy
business.
business.
I
But
have
yeah,
you were
Justin, I'll do anything. I'll do anything.
yes. We have it recorded.
We have it recorded. Yes.
Oh no.
You were saying earlier about like your mental health and skyrocketing at certain seasons
Mm.
of your career. What have been well, first of all, I'm wondering, like, is that something you realized as you were kind of going
Mm.
to, I call it like a dark place, or that mental weight of mental health? Was that something that you saw gradually declining, or was that something that you like woke up one day and you're like, I am not okay?
Mm.
And then what was your process to turn it around, to become more positive,
Yeah,
to
that's
change that
good.
motivation and mindset?
Good question. I feel like it was a gradual thing,
Mhm.
but I feel um like I think like you touched earlier, I mean, sometimes I feel like I do have all that joy and I am genuinely happy
Mhm.
90% of the time, but there's that 10% of time that I'm not. And that's
Mhm.
so normal
It's
for everyone. I mean, there's
totally
times when you're just not happy.
right.
And I think in some cases, uh, I feel like because I wasn't happy, but I had to film that day or I had to make a little video
Mm.
or whatever. And I just don't want to do that, but I have to, or
Mhm.
that kind of a thing. So that was weighing on me. And I think just some, just personal issues and whatnot that
Mhm.
were in my life at the time too, that I feel like the weight of the world is on you. And I think it's for me, uh, asking for help. That's something that I
Mm.
never really, wanted to do or whatever. But
Sure.
I think asking for help is so important, and,
Yeah.
and having accountability with friends that either understand you or whatnot. And I've,
Mhm.
made so many friends on social media that,
Amazing.
I feel like are going through the same thing. It's
Mm.
hard to talk about some of the things that people are, that I'm going through when people around me
Yeah.
don't understand what's going on.
Mhm. Mhm.
But finding that community online has been really, really nice of,
Mm.
bouncing back and forth, things. Uh, I don't know, just again, taking social media breaks and whatnot to
Yeah.
just kind of just, you know, level everything out and uh, I don't know.
That's great.
That's great.
Yeah.
Kind of building off that, like, what would you say are some of the biggest takeaways or pieces of advice for someone who, I mean, again, you kind of already answered this when it comes to social media, finding that balance in their life, but even someone who's in a position of like, man, I'm super passionate about it. Again, doesn't even necessarily have to be makeup or, but they want to start a social media journey in that way. Like if you could go back in time and give advice to like younger Polly, what, you know, what
Yeah.
advice would you share? What are some of the big takeaways that you would say from like your successes as well as your struggles?
Yeah. So looking back, I wish I took more business classes for sure. Because I mean, the amount of times I got screwed over from brand deals when I didn't have management that were handling all of those things. I was doing it all by myself.
Wow.
And so looking at contracts, making sure other people are looking at contracts for you as well was very important. It's one of those things where business classes would have come in handy. And so I always say, especially for people that are getting into the arts, having a business minor or just taking some elective classes on business marketing, because I think you go into it. I think a lot of people go into their art being kind of conceited in the sense that, oh, I'm good, like I'm going to make it,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But I think you have to go into it in a humble way.
100%.
And I just, so you have to, I don't know, be smart about it, do your research, look at all aspects of things, and know your worth
Yeah.
too.
That's good.
I have turned down many sponsorships because they're, you have to think about it in the sense of like, yes, that's a nice little paycheck, but what is this brand going to use my video for? What are they going to financially make off of it? You have to think about it in that scope. There was a makeup artist who is really big on YouTube who did a deal with a well-known makeup company. I won't say the makeup company, but she was paid $50,000 to create a palette with this makeup company, and which $50,000 sounds amazing, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
that's great. Like people make that in a year, right?
Yeah.
And but she went on and sold like so many of these palettes to her followers. And the brand made, I think, $13 million off of her palettes alone. And she made $50,000. Do the percentage, it's not really great.
No.
So, you kind of have to think about it in that aspect where, over the years, did I, say no to, X amount of dollars? But in the end, you have to know your worth, and you have to, stick to it, because unfortunately a lot of brands these days take advantage of young influencers and creators, because they're going to say yes to a lot of this, a lot of these, smaller amounts of money, and which hurts people like me who are really firm, because these brands are like, well, if you don't want to work with me, I'm just going to find somebody that will, right?
Sure.
But that also levels out the good companies from the bad companies.
I love that it should be mandatory that fine arts is paired with a business minor.
100%.
I think that would have been so smart.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
for you too.
We see that massively in.
Oh, man.
I mean, I'm very thankful because I feel like I am better at that now from the School of Hard Knocks and because of experience. But yeah, I think artists need to remember that too. At the end of the day, that you do have to think that way if you want to do it sustainably. That's the trick, is like anyone can do it. And I think you see this a lot specifically in social media. You see bursts of people. You see people who can do it for a certain amount of time and then they just burn themselves out.
Right.
Like that takes a lot of discipline. That takes a lot of skill. That takes a lot of like so many pieces of support to be able to do it consistently and sustainably. And like, kudos to you, Paul, for doing that, for like figuring out what that was, for being intentional about doing the research, about being strategic, about, like you said, finding your value and your worth within that. That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah. In anything that I ever go into, I always have the mindset of what can I learn from my peers. And even just for the most recent thing with Shrek the Musical, you know, what can I learn from the you know, the costume department, and you know, how, you know, that's just how you have to, you know, do things. You can't go in this with, I'm the big shot, or I'm this, I'm that. You have to go in it with everyone's at equal playing fields.
Yeah.
And I think from my experience, you develop such stronger relationships with people, and people want to work with you.
Yeah.
You know, I always say, like, the divas, no one ever wants to work with you, you know? And I can see, you know, if you're Beyonce or something like that, yes, you could be a diva, right?
Yeah.
But if you're a new actress or whatnot, and you're coming on set acting like a diva, everyone's talking about how they don't want to work with you ever again, you know? And so I think it's just important to stay humble and learn from as much from everyone else as you possibly can, and just soak it all in.
Right. There's only so much you can predict. There's only so much you can, you know, plan for. And ultimately, at the end of the day, being a kind and positive and, I mean, real, like you said, you know, 10% is are hard times and you're not happy. Most people are like 10% joy, Paul. Like, you are such a diamond in that way. And so you're making choices to like yourself, to, you know,
just to be healthy. Emotionally, socially, spiritually, physically, all those things.
I feel like recently, and this is totally off topic, but I've seen recently a ton of influencers apologizing, right? That's like every other day someone's getting canceled or apologizing, and a lot of it, unfortunately, is pulling up from the past, right? Like, people are.
Paul, do you want to apologize to Stephanie for all the scary TikToks? It's like now the time.
I'm sure I have to
regret
apologize.
my actions for making something that scared Stephanie.
I'm sure me and Stephanie got into something in our past that was a little bit cringy.
Oh my word. Like, there are comments that I'm like, oh, I did not say that, did I? So embarrassing. But anyway, I do think that's something I want to teach my kids, is like, this is going to follow you, and you might even delete it, but it's still out there. Yeah. It's still something that you have to give an account for, you know? And so as much as we can as parents, and as, you know, modeling that, being, you know, thinking through what you're saying, thinking through how it could come across, thinking through the long-term ramifications. Like, I think that's going to become more and more important. Like,
absolutely. Well, Paul, last question I have is, you know, our podcast is called The Intentional Thriver. What does that mean to you, with like everything that we've talked about here? Like, what does that mean to you to intentionally thrive in your life?
I feel like I could go so many different ways with answering it. But I think just knowing your clear path early on, like what are your goals that you want to accomplish in the future, and then just sticking to those goals. And I always say, like, I always write things down. If I get like a good idea, or if I get something, I don't know, I think writing things down and having that, and then going back to that and being like, this is what I wrote down. These are my goals. And seeing if your goals are still aligned years later. Years ago, I loved journaling, and I need to get back into it, because I feel like sometimes I go back into my journal. I'm like, okay. And it kind of like refreshes, you know, my brain a little bit, to kind of just, I don't know. So, and I think just obviously going off the word, but just being intentional with how you are portraying yourself to, you know, everyone around you as well.